So guys, thank you very much for coming in. Going to share some of your experience of working with Avocado, but prior to the move, I'd just like to know from your point of view, what was the goal, what was the plan, what was the reason, why was moving home a thing that you wanted to do?
So I approached Neil, I think pretty much a year before we were actually ready to move. Just being nosy, having seen socials. Can I see this house? Can I see this house? And he was like, yeah, okay. We can show you them, blah, blah. And I wasn't mentally prepared. And then we found out we were pregnant and we were like, okay, we need a bigger house. We want a family home. We're now ready. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Well, you are always looking at houses anyway, aren't you? And that's what you're doing. And then when we found out about Neil living around the corner, that was for you was like gold mine.
Some people are like right move addicts. They just kind of have
And
the app. Is that
yeah,
you?
you go there and you go, oh, look at this one there. And I was like, we don't need to move. Why do we? And then, yeah, we said it's fine. And then when we were pregnant, I was like, yeah, you might be right now. We might need to move.
It's
so
tough.
you'd already speaking to Neil a lot and
Yeah.
you're getting a lot of stuff through.
So you had
already.
you had the lay of the land a little bit then,
Yeah.
because you were keeping up to date with the socials and the properties, which probably helps, I would imagine.
Yeah, we knew what was coming in. We knew what price we were looking at expecting in the Shinfield area and things like that. So we knew what to expect. And when the time was right, we were like, okay, we're ready. Let's do this. Let's get on the market. And yeah.
Did you have any worries from when you'd bought before? Is there anything sort of going into the world of solicitors and mortgages and estate agents and removals and all of that jazz? Was there anything that you were sort of specifically worried about?
For me, it was a new realm, wasn't it?
Yeah.
As in, again, we bought a new build. So for us, that was pretty straightforward. You're in and out. And then, yeah, I'm not very money savvy and that stuff. So when it came to the points of this, there's an X comes here, or you'll get this much back and stuff, I was like, oh, I haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
And you were quite good at explaining that, and Neil was, to be fair, because there's things where when we spoke about it, so that was one for me, trying to understand the different sort of
It's not easy, is it?
aspects of it and get my head around it. But you understood it better than me. You're better with that sort of stuff. But then also Neil was quite helpful with explaining it, and I'm like, oh, okay, makes a bit more sense.
Yeah, we were going
me.
from... We lived with my parents, so we didn't have any rent, anything. We were going from completely fresh first-time buyers with no baggage to trying to buy and sell a house.
So different. The transaction of buying on its own right versus selling and buying and juggling two different sides of it is so different. You guys found that?
Yeah, and having to deal with other people's solicitors. So we were relatively short chain. Our buyer was a first-time buyer, and the house we've moved into they were an old couple that have moved into a retirement home. But trying to get everybody's solicitors on board on the same page was really tricky process, and got to the point where I'm going, Neil, I can't do this. And he goes, okay, I'm on it, sorted. And he was getting responses so much quicker than we were. And it was just really helpful, because if anything came back, we were going, I don't understand what this means. And he'd go, blah, 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 blah. There.
Yeah. You had someone there that could fix it.
Yeah.
I like that the quick and easy thing as well was like WhatsApp and then all that stuff. Neil was happy to just drop a message on that, whereas who we bought from as well weren't as easy to communicate with. So we'll try to get some chase up stuff on that, whereas Neil, you drop him a message and he'd reply as soon as he could, and he always apologise. But then it was quite regular.
Yeah.
And there was always sort of regular updates, and we needed regular updates, whereas opposed to who we were buying from, it took
You go
a
weeks
lot
without...
longer. Email, phone call, oh, they're just out at the minute, they'll call you back later, no call back, and it just felt a lot more personal, which was quite nice. I found that as well.
With I mean, obviously we don't need to name names of other agents, but I've been involved in traditional agency, and I think when you've got a WhatsApp group, just how simple it is, because you can read it when you're ready and you can read it when you're ready, and the Chinese whispers of someone passing information to and fro different people doesn't happen either, which makes life a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, and the fact you can do voice notes, what you're trying to put into a voice message sometimes is so much easier than what you're trying to convey into written word, and it doesn't come across quite the same way.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Were you apprehensive at all at any point when you decided you're going to move, we're going to put the house on the market? Was there anything that you were really worried about at that stage before talking to any agents, although you kind of briefly spoke to Neil and stuff like that?
The house went on the market before we found somewhere, and it was Neil that approached us and said, look, got a couple, they're interested in looking at something similar to what you're selling. Do you think you're ready? Let's go for it. And then it all went through and they put in an offer, and I turned to Jack and I was like, now it's actually official. Do we really want to move? And Neil did the reassurance, yes, you're ready. You've been ready for ages. Let's just go. We've got this offer. Let's move forward. You're now in the better position to be looking for somewhere because you've got an offer on the table as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a little bit of a second guess. Oh my God, we're selling our first home.
Yeah.
Mine was the next part, like, oh, what are we moving into next?
Yeah.
I had always ideas in my head of almost like creating the house that I want, and then obviously you can't create a house I want unless you've got the money to do that. So it's trying to find it, and you go from one place, I was like, oh, this place is brilliant for this. That was the bit that I had. It was the thinking that we had to decide quickly on somewhere. So then it was me looking at places going, oh, well, maybe we just go for this one because it's the downstairs is the size we need, or something like that. Oh, but we're losing out on the upstairs or the garden and stuff. And that was the bit I was apprehensive about. I wasn't too bad I got it in my head that we were selling, and I was ready for that. It was the bit of like, oh, where are we going to go to next? What's the next bit?
Did you feel a little bit of pressure because you had a buyer? Did you feel like a bit of timescale pressure to find something?
Yeah.
I felt that a bit. Mine was more of a, because then once we had the person, you sort of forget in your head that where we were at with it and so early, it wasn't actually a big deal if these people turned around and said no, because we didn't have anywhere we wanted at the time. So actually we could have taken our time. But in my head, I was thinking, oh, we've got someone to buy us, so we have to get somewhere now. So that was my worry, was going, oh, we need to. But again, with Neil, like he was like, well, you actually haven't got a place yet, so yeah, you want to rush a bit to get somewhere. But if you haven't at the minute and stuff goes through, it's okay. We just restart. You're not in a bad situation, which actually helped as well.
Yeah, the ball was in your court, isn't it?
The ball was in our court, and Neil kept on explaining that quite well, which was really helpful.
Yeah, good. What about yourself? Was there anything that you were thinking about finding a property? Was there like one thing that we must have X?
So initially,
I know what it was for you.
What was it?
No, you say
No,
first
you.
now. A bathroom.
Oh,
with
a
window.
bathroom with a
Bathroom
window.
with a window.
With a window,
Bathroom
okay.
with a window,
Yeah.
Because we were mid-terrace.
Okay.
So I felt very claustrophobic. But no, you know.
I knew what it was.
Yeah, bathroom with a window
That was
was
a big
my
one,
thing.
big must for you.
Normally you have three, don't you? There's normally like three things, and
Yeah.
they're like, this is one, this is one.
Originally, it was staying in the area we were in because we knew it. We had an amazing dog walker. Didn't want to have to change that.
Yeah.
The commutes to work for both of us were pretty reasonable. So we wanted to stay this side of the M4, but it just didn't work out in the end. But Dan and Neil were really good at being like, right, this is in your criteria, this is what you're asking for. But there was always just something not quite. And they were like, okay, fine, we'll look again.
We were quite relaxed about it all, which was quite nice. Like I had my adamant one that I wanted a garage, didn't I? So I could try and put a home gym in, and that was my adamant.
Garage and a bath.
Yeah.
Garage and a bath. They silly one and a decent sized garden. Those were my sort of things.
Yeah.
But again, it was quite. I felt sometimes with some of the estate agents, when you said you weren't interested in the property, they seemed a bit frustrated or annoyed about it when we did it with some other people. Dan and Neil were really quite relaxed and just, that's fine, we'll keep looking. If it's not right for you, it's not right for you. And that's what was.
Did it put you off a little bit sometimes if you got that kind of patronising sort of vibe?
Yeah, potential. And it was also that one of, oh, there's a lot of interest on this place. Like, that everybody says it. Neil said it at times as well, but I think it was just the way it came across.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interest in this place. Like, you need to offer now or today, or else like we're going to give it to someone else.
Yeah.
And again, I think that was from getting to know Neil and being able to WhatsApp him and stuff. You understood where he was coming from, of just saying, like, I'll do what I can, but if you don't put an offer in, there might be some other people. But it didn't feel like there was pressure from him or anyone else to say, if you want it, you've got to do it now.
And you put your own pressure on yourselves as well at this point, hadn't you? So probably didn't help.
I think one of the biggest things when we were in the searching process is we obviously looked through Avocado and we looked through a load of other estate agents, and it was how much Dan and Neil knew about the house. We had situations where we would turn up at a house and there wasn't anyone there, and you'd ring and they'd go, oh, well, we sent them out and they hadn't got the correct address. Or we turned up at a couple of appointments and they're double booked and they weren't there. Or you'd walk into a house and the estate agent would be like, oh, this isn't actually my listing, so I don't know any information. I'm going to have to go away and find out for you. But every house we viewed with Dan and Neil and Avocado, they knew what they were selling.
Yeah.
There was also, like, sometimes there was simple, again, I don't know, there's simple questions that we would have asked that you kind of thought, expected they'd know. And sometimes the estate agent's like, oh, I don't know that one. I was like, oh, that's not helpful. One good thing about Dan and Neil was it was quite rare that they didn't know the answer. But again, with that WhatsApp and that quick link, they were able to sort of go, I'll ask about them, and as soon as and we usually found out half an hour later, an hour later after it, which was always quite helpful as well.
It's frustrating on the viewing side of things. It's such an important part of the buying process. You know, you'd felt the pressure, you hadn't done that kind of buying and selling before, but going to a viewing when you're quite optimistic about a house, you want to kind of feel that. You don't want to feel any frustration, do you? You want to feel it's smooth and it goes for you. So it's interesting that you found that. Was there anything else that kind of frustrated you along the way, just generally speaking? Not necessarily just estate agents, but, you know, you mentioned conveyancing and stuff like that. But
that was really tricky. We had some issues with our buyer was ready to go, we were ready to go, but no one had communicated with the people we were buying from the date that we'd want to move. And that had been penciled in the diary for 8-9 weeks, and when it got to it, they were like, "Oh no one's actually informed us."
Yeah, no one gave us that. It was also, we got a survey, didn't we, done on where we were moving into, and that was all right. But sort of again, there was a response of how long about some certain questions. So a couple of things were flagged, and we asked the question to some guys, and just their response took so long that we did actually. I remember one asking Dan one question about it, and he came back quite sharply and quite quickly with it, and then we got the response about 2 or 3 days later from who we'd actually asked.
So you were buying for another agent, but you weren't getting the information.
The info, so we ended
up asking Dan and Neil all the questions.
And it wasn't just the agent as well. We actually asked them. I can't remember who else we asked, but someone else who should have known the answer, and they took quite a while to do it as well. And those were little frustrations when you had those little questions when it was getting close to the exchange point of wanting to get it done, and that was quite a little bit of frustrations with those.
Sounds like you really felt Dan and Neil were kind of genuinely on your side then.
They were a sounding board for both the selling and the buying elements, even though we didn't buy through them.
Yeah, they were. That was it. They were really helpful on the buying side of things as well. And like I said, then I think they actually made the selling process. I think we've probably not properly experienced the selling process for anyone else, because I think they made that so easy. Yeah, that they communicated with really well. Our person who bought from us wanted to visit the house a couple more times, and Neil was really open and honest and said, like, you can say no, you don't have to let them view. However, it might just help for this opinion. They wanted to check something to do with the back garden. They wanted to check something to do with the upstairs bedroom, and that was fine. And Neil just said, let us know when it works for you. Gave us plenty of heads up when it was going to happen. And then also as well was clear. We went for a walk just around the block. He said it'd take about 20 minutes, and he'd WhatsApp us as soon as it was done. And about 10 minutes later, we're halfway around a walk, and he said, "You're all good. We're all good to go. House is all locked up." And it was quick, and again, he was really good at communicating between the person he wanted to buy us that we were selling for.
Would it surprise you that in the number one complaint for the last 20 years in estate agencies, communication is the number one? Because you've seen both sides of the spectrum by the sounds of it.
Yeah, definitely both sides of the spectrum. No, that wouldn't surprise me at all. And it's so simple, isn't it? It's one of the most important things. And like you obviously do open house, which is so helpful when you've got a toddler and a dog and everything else. And it's like, right, okay, this is when we're free. This is when we'll do it. Let's get on with it and go. And like Jack was saying, when we actually got second viewings, third viewings, we would just send Neil a message, be like, right, we're out at this point, this point, this point, this point. And he was like, okay. It's sort of like you build up a rapport and a trust with him and Dan, where you can go, you've got the keys, I trust you, this is when I'm free, just let me know when you're going in my house.
Even like on the day of the sale, you all got out of the house, we go everything, and then I just stayed and did a nice little whip around. I actually forgot 2-3 things. Yeah. Which Neil thankfully communicated with him, and he was able to, because he obviously still had the keys, and he would have popped in anyway before to make sure he actually went and grabbed for me. And he was like, yeah, I've got it all. It's all sorted. Don't worry about it. And that was also helpful, because it was me going, I got to the house with you, and I turned around in the car, and I was like, oh no. Yeah. Like, I've forgotten this, and this. And they were, again, these are things that weren't like, it wasn't the be all and end all. Like, it wasn't a major issue that they were left there, but it was much more helpful to know that Neil had sort of grabbed it for us and said, yeah, I've got that all sorted.
We normally find that lots of those little things, one way or the other way, good or bad, make up the experience. So those little positives, they sort of add to the experience. Or if it goes the other way around, it can equally be a frustration.
Obviously, I've seen the package you get when you've purchased and the avocado keyring, and I was fuming. I was obviously hormonal, pregnant, and we got an email to say, congratulations, everything's gone through, you can head to the office to collect your keys. And I walked into the office, was given an envelope and said, there's 3 sets of keys in there to get into the house. Enjoy your new home.
Did you? And it wasn't even the estate agent, was it?
And it wasn't.
Sold us. And you came back to the house and I was like, you alright? Like, ready to get in? And you were like, no, I'm not happy at all. They literally gave me this and then that was it. Like, and I understood, it got you more than me. I was a bit like, I just want to get in the house. But it was a bit more underwhelming as a case of, like, it would have been a bit nicer to actually been outside the house to be given the keys.
So even to be met at the house, but I had to go to the office. It just felt really impersonal. Like, buying a house for the majority of people is a really big deal. It's
a pretty spectacular moment, completion day.
It felt, and I agree with you on that, it just felt that they were like, oh, job's done now. The sale's done, we don't need, like, here you go, there's your keys, off you go.
Yeah.
Whereas, I know the sounds of what you guys do is very...
I've got a big bee in my bonnet about that, because I just think I don't think it's a celebratory kind of experience. If you've got to drive to the town or whatever it may be to grab the keys, you've got to park up, you pay 50p for parking. It's not the experience you want, then you just get an envelope.
Yeah.
It should be personal, it should be exciting.
I definitely wasn't. I think I texted Neil straight away and I was like...
You did.
I'm never buying a house with anyone else. You're going to have to swap and, like, become the estate agents of the house I want to buy. So I don't have... I said it just felt like a massive letdown.
We're not doing that anytime soon.
Yeah, we're not.
And getting that in your head.
Well, you never know what happens. You never know. Did you get some Alan the avocado key rings off the guys in the end, though? Yeah.
Yeah, he actually gave it someone before going, yeah. So
I've got a big tub there if you need any more, so don't worry.
No, I've got one Alan.
Yeah, I've got one Alan, which has made you very happy, didn't it?
It's very insightful, and I really appreciate you coming in, because from the bit before to the completion day, and you're happy in the house, you're happy with the house, everything's gone all right since?
Yeah.
No? Okay, well, we're going to move again. We've got an estate agent we can put you in contact with.
I'm having a laugh, right?
No,
there's stuff to do.
There's stuff to do in the house that we weren't aware of.
Yeah, maybe again, we're happy in the house. It just needs some work to do. There's more work doing on it than we thought needed to be, but it is what it is.
But it's your home.
We are happy. It's our home. We are happy there. We better be happy there.
I don't know. I hope I didn't start anything.
Again, yeah, and it's like, but yeah, the sales side of things. Obviously, it's a lot heavier from you guys on the sales side of things, but that was really, really easy. And very happy, and we've even like been in contact with Neil since. Just he's checked in how the house is, how's everything going. So he is more of a friend now than he is sort of an estate agent.
Yeah.
So we were lucky enough that we met him before. We needed to use him as an estate agent, but then got to know him as a friend from it, and it's nice to get the odd check in and how's the house and everything.
Build that relationship.
Even when he wasn't involved in selling us the house.
Yeah.
We're still interested to see how we are and how we're doing with it, which is really, really good. And
I love to hear that. That's everything that we've tried to sort of build with the brand, is that personal touch, client for life, become friends. It's a long time, when you're buying and selling, 6 months, 9 months sometimes. So you do build a relationship with people. You do care about all of those little touch points that you speak about, and I think that's the big difference that we want to really put out there, is when you use a self-employed agent from start to finish, they know more on the viewing. The little touches mean something extra, the communication's strong, and it's great to hear that you had that experience as well. So thanks so much for coming in, and congratulations on completion, and obviously soon to be number 2 as well. So thank you very much for coming in.
No, thank you.